What's up, Ron?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good afternoon, everybody.
How are you?
All right, how's everyone?
Doing good.
Hello.
Doing good. How you?
Doing good. Miss Cheek, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Bridges,
Yes, sir.
and Commissioner Tovey. I thought I saw him at the top. Stop laughing. All right, well, I would like to call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. of the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. I'm going by the top of my screen. I have Miss Tina Cheek, who's our Parks and Recreation Director, City Manager Alan Thornton, Commissioner Ron Bullock. I can't tell who the City of Oxford is, but I see Commissioner Danny Kern, and there's Commissioner Tovey. I see him. I see another City of Oxford, not sure who that is, Mayor Sargent, our Finance Director, and I think I said Commissioner Bridges. Okay, our
One
objective,
is me, Commissioner Harris.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said one of them is me, Cindy.
Who is me? No, I'm saying Miss Bowen, our city clerk is me, one of the people, and I see that Miss
Yep.
Gilrery is one as well. I see she has popped up. So at this time, the objective for the meeting today is Ms. Cheek will give us the results from the survey that was sent out to the community. I would like to emphasize that what we discussed today is not final. This is very fluid. And she would like to get comments from the commissioners and mayor and their point of view as to accept the recommendations from the community. Ms. Cheek, take it away.
So I'm going to give you a brief introduction, and then we'll go to the concept plans. And as Commissioner Harris mentioned, basically the Hicks concept plan is, or it's the Hicks complex concept plan, is actually taking the information that we received in the survey of the items that the community wanted to see, and it's taking the pieces that we could actually put in our city campus here within the Hicks complex, and just showing you guys where everything could be, what could be done down here and that sort of thing. So this is a little bit of a separate piece from the master plan. This is sort of taking those and actually putting them on the ground. There are other items on the master plan or in the survey and the things that the community wants and feels like they need that may fit better in a different part of town or at a different site or that sort of thing. So, so what I'm going to do is share my screen, and I have two concepts, and we'll go over those pretty quick. I've got some notes here, so I keep looking off. I'm sorry. And we'll get that going. Well, there. Okay. All right. So this is basically concept one, and if you can sort of see the shadow underneath of, there's the baseball diamond that's at the corner of Williamsboro and Cooper. If you can see my cursor on the page, you can't see my cursor moving around. You should be able to. You can see Town Hall. So I'll go through this one real quick, and then we'll move to concept two, and then we can kind of discuss the differences and what you'd like to see and that sort of thing. So the red, these are pedestrian access areas. So this concept is, there's no aquatic center on this concept, so I wanted to go ahead and point that out. That keeps the existing Hicks Gym. Obviously, there would be some upgrades and modifications to that. Moves the dog park to where the basketball court is currently, moves the basketball court and the tennis courts over towards Cooper Street, has a splash pad, has a walking trail that looks similar to a track. We were kind of looking at the theme. Obviously, this was the high school at one point. This actual bathroom and pavilion area right here in the center is at what would have been the 50-yard line, and we could do something there to signify that. But the inclusive play area would be moved away a little bit from Spring Street. We'd move the skate park up parallel to Spring Street, keep the Rotary Club, sort of make that more of a garden area. It could become community gardens, different things like that. There would be, if you go to Williamsboro Street, the top of the page, that would be a pedestrian access from Williamsboro that would go in and actually traverse the hill that's there that sort of separates, and there would be some little picnic nodes that would be there. So that area would become ADA compliant. And then a little further down, you see an additional entrance into the Hicks complex, which is definitely an issue that we have now, is traffic flow. So you could come in on Spring Street or Bell Street, and you could go out on Williamsboro. So you would have a band shell up here at the corner of Cooper, basically the backstop of the baseball field. Loading access to that if you had a band out there, that sort of thing. Couple of other seating areas. There'd be a lot of parking in front of Hicks and a small drop-off area at what I call the front of Hicks, but all of my staff call the back of Hicks. So, but we would have a drop-off area there, additional parking along the side, a maintenance facility. This maintenance facility is about 3,200 square feet. It would be added towards the back of the building, and this would help alleviate you know, I know there's been a lot of talk about public works and them needing more space. And as the city grows, obviously we need more space, they need more space, but moving our stuff over to this complex would make sense in the future for us. So we wanted to kind of have an area for that. Shelter up where the existing dog park is now. And then you see the outline of the building that Harry Mills and his staff occupy right now, that would be there. Add an additional picnic shelter. And then right now we've got cut out the piece of property on the corner of Spring and Bell. But that could, potentially become something as well in the future. So that is moving, both of these concepts move a lot of the items that were high on the priority list during the survey. It deals with somewhere between 10 to 12 of the top 15 items that the citizens were asking for. So let me go ahead and go to concept 2, and then we can start. And remember, this is the high level, the 60,000, 100,000 foot view. There would be a lot to do to hone this down, to move into construction and pricing and cost estimates and things like that. So the second concept has, you see that a lot of things have moved. The 32,000 square foot aquatic facility is similar to what Henderson has in ACOC. So it has one gym, but multiple courts, walking track, classroom space, a lobby area, aquatic, a pool. So it has a lot of the pieces that people are asking for as well with the aquatics piece, indoor aquatics piece. You see the skate park at the top. Again, you see an additional entrance off of Williamsboro, so you really have good vehicular motion throughout the park. The pavilion, another type pavilion, restrooms, and that would be required if you put a splash pad on site. You would have to have that bathroom facility. I think it's within 100 feet now of the actual splash pad. That way people aren't running in and out of the aquatic center to change and do things like that. Additional parking, we have some open lawn space as we did in the other, but not quite as much. But that also feeds into an amphitheater with tiered seating. This works really well in this location because, as you all know, that there's some topography there along Cooper Street, and this would fit into that area. And this, believe it or not, is seating for about 900 people. So that area, it would be a great area for events, festivals, bands, family programming, different things like that. So the inclusive play area would be in this about the same space that it's in now. It would just be put together a little different. So there would be, you wouldn't have the individual little pockets. You would have something that, you had the different age groups, but everything would be a little bit more cohesive. Still have the rotary piece up there, a lot of internal pedestrian travel. These could be, a lot of these would be measured trails, similar to what we have around the outside of the campus now. We have still about the same size square foot maintenance building. The tennis courts would stay in the same area, but they would be rebuilt. That's what's going to happen next with those tennis courts, so that we can get some grading and things done underneath. The basketball court would move a little bit internal, but we have good flow through traffic-wise. On this, you see the area, the building that's rented now on Bell Street is still there. The parking in front of that and the travel through to the back of Town Hall is all still there. But this does give you a more direct route around Town Hall, additional parking for meetings, things like that. A picnic lawn and shelter. Obviously, this goes over the building that Harry is in right now, which I did go by and talk to him yesterday and say, hey, I just want you to know that this is being shown, and I don't want you to think that we're about to bulldoze your building. So we're just kind of looking at what would work best for the City of Oxford residents and the city, just like the county's doing with the new jail and that sort of thing. So, and he said he understood that. the picnic shelter, an additional picnic shelter, and preserving a lot of those larger trees that are there between like the dog park and Hicks Gym currently. So what I'd like to sort of get from you guys is, like Commissioner Harris said, that it is a living document and it evolves over time based on citizens' needs, budget, site constraints, things like that. But which concept you like, the pieces in it that you like, are there things that you feel like are missing? And what we want to do is come up with a document that we would be able to show to the public in the next step, so that we would be able to do that next public engagement meeting. And then after that would be to actually bring all of that, all the findings from the Hicks Complex Plan and the master plan back to the board. So I am going to, well, Commissioner Harris, do you want to go through who is to ask questions, or would you like me to do that?
You went out, Ms. Cheek. What was your first part of your question?
Did you want to ask for comments, or would you like me just to go through the list as I have them here on my screen?
Well, I can start with the committee members, Commissioner Tovey and Commissioner Bridges. You have any comment?
I can go back to the other concept if you want me to.
Commissioner Bridges?
Yeah, I have a question relative to the aquatic facility. And I'm just not remembering what the first chart showed, but is the aquatic center in both plans or not?
No, sir. Concept
Okay.
one, I'll go back to that real quick.
Yeah.
Keeps the existing gym, Hicks Gym, obviously with some things that would need to be done to that to bring it up to code and that sort of thing, but there is no
Yeah.
aquatics facility on the first concept.
All right. And then my second question is, in either plan, you have to move the basketball court and the tennis court?
No, in the first concept plan,
Mhm.
actually, the first sketch that they sent me, I moved, well, this is pretty much concept one is similar to what they sent originally. But one of the things I had asked was to move the basketball court back closer to Bell Street. And so that way, if you've got something going on down there, and same for the tennis courts, if you've got something going on, say it in the play lawn or the tiered seating area, the amphitheater, that sort of thing, people could still be playing tennis or playing basketball or that sort of thing. So yeah, you would move them a little bit. I think if we were digging into this, completely as a large project, moving the dog park to make a little bit more room for that. The basketball court could also move over to potentially the corner of Spring and Bell Street. But we wanted to make sure there was parking for that and that sort of thing. So that's one of the reasons we kind of moved that.
Well, the reason I asked that question, we spent quite a bit of money building that basketball court. And of course, it looks like we just recently did some additional work to the tennis courts. And I'm trying to figure out how can we justify to our, to the public and our taxpayers, the money we spent to get those facilities up to par. And I don't think that basketball court is second to any, for the most part. And the location, to be quite frank with you, seems to have worked in terms of, I don't know. I don't think there've been a lot of problems at the basketball court, and I was involved many years ago about getting that basketball located where it is. I ran into some roadblocks on that, but I felt that the location of the basketball court was crucial to maintenance and also crucial to safety and less problems. And so I have some concerns about moving around and digging up things that we spent a lot of money trying to get done.
Right. And that's certainly a great point, and I'll make a note about keeping the basketball court where it is. Our intent was to make it a little bit larger. But one of the things that you're going to see, one is we're looking at 5 or 10 years probably down the road right now. And that's probably best case scenario for this project. The tennis courts themselves will be, we'll start seeing cracking again in probably 2 years. We'll see significant cracking in 3 to 5 years. So the tennis court is going to have, well, it's shown in concept 2 is staying where it is. It will have to be basically milled, drainage fixed underneath it, and rebuilt completely. So the resurfacing of the courts is kind of a, just a temporary fix, typically on tennis courts that are this age. The basketball court is right now in good shape. There's some drainage issues, but when you're doing a project this large, if we were to do, say concept 2, and you start moving things around a little bit, sometimes it makes sense. When you're only doing one piece at a time, then certain things make sense. And if you're doing obviously the whole project, things make sense. But I feel like, we could make adjustments to this certainly and leave the basketball court where it is. I don't think it doesn't have to be moved, but we would want to be able to enlarge it a little bit. So we would look at that, as well, if we could do that in that same area. But we are looking down the road, so we're going to start seeing some asphalt issues and things like that. But yeah, I'm very proud of that basketball court, and I feel like you guys are too, and it gets a lot of use, and it's in a good spot. That's why I moved it up towards that area. So, but yes, sir. But I did make that note.
Tina, I'd make a note that last time we resurfaced the tennis court, it barely lasted a year before we started seeing cracks.
Yes.
Because of that seepage, that water underneath, that's going to have to be dealt with.
Yep.
Plus, we have the great news of the county is adding, 8 or 9 tennis courts out at the Gap.
Right. Yeah. So
that's in process now.
right. And that's one of the reasons that we didn't at this time expand on our tennis court area. We feel like the 2 courts right now are serving our purpose. Now, obviously, 10 years from now, maybe even 5 years from now, we're going to see a difference in our population. But the Gap is relatively close. And so what we would probably look at doing is just rebuilding the 2 courts potentially. But one thing, we did get some guaranteed crack repair this time during this. So we're looking at 2 years. It's hard to get a guarantee on crack repair, but this is a process that Court 1 uses, and they actually give you a guarantee on it. So those areas that were fixed with that, we should.
What was the name of that? I'm sorry. What was the name of the company you said?
Court 1.
Court 1. Okay.
Yes, sir. So,
And can I follow up just
Yes.
with a additional question? You have one concept, the first one we saw, that did not have the aquatic center at all. It wasn't included in it at all. And then in the second one, we do have the aquatic center. I'm just curious, how much support relative to the survey and the public was for having an aquatic center?
Well, one thing I took into account when we were doing this was that the city has been putting money aside for that aquatic center. So I feel like there has been some conversations in the past about that. But it depends on facilities and amenities that are most important. In the survey, the listed in the top 10 are the indoor pools, fitness, walking loops, indoor fitness and exercise facility, outdoor amphitheater, classroom, meeting and event space, special events, festivals, and art, dance, and performing arts. So it ranked high as far as being most important to the people for the survey. It also ranked high in facilities and amenities households have a need for. And again, this concept 2 gets about, let's see, it's fitness, walking loops, senior center, which for us would be more senior programming because the senior center is so close by. But fitness and exercise, indoor pool was the 4th on that. Additional picnic shelters, community gardens, playground, classroom meeting space, indoor basketball courts, outdoor basketball courts, and outdoor amphitheater. So we had 11 of the top 15 items are addressed in this concept plan. So it did rank high. It did not rank top. It was usually somewhere maybe within the top 5 or 6 for both of those. But it's, you know, it's a big undertaking. You're talking something like ACOT, $10 million. And then staffing. So, but, you know, certainly as we grow, something that we need to look at, so.
Commissioner Tovey. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bridges, is that,
I was finished.
okay,
Yes.
thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Tovey.
Yes, I keep losing everybody. I do like concept 2. I'm obviously worried about the expense, and as you say, it's going to be 5 or 10 years down the road. Another problem is when you start to, if you start to build a facility like this, are you going to do it all at once? Because that would mean places like the basketball courts and the Hicks gym would be out of action for what, a year maybe?
Yeah, and I talked about that a little bit with the company as far as if there was a way we could move the aquatic center over and split the parking so you could keep, because again, none of this is set in stone. These are just facilities that'll fit, that sort of thing. But you're looking at it being down for, you know, probably a year. So, but moving, like splitting the parking, moving the aquatic center over so you could keep Hicks Gym. Then once the aquatic center was built, then you could tear that down and add the additional parking that would be required for a facility that size. So there are some things in there. Now, logistically, you know, a lot of times they want to go in and do grading and things in a, you know, a pretty large area so they can move dirt, and you can cut your costs some by keeping that dirt on site, you know, when you're working on the amphitheater and things like that. So, so there are ways, again, to move this around. And if that was like a, you know, a hard line and you know, you had to keep the gym open, you could certainly plan for that moving forward.
I think it would be necessary, really. You can't expect the kids of the town to go without any facilities for a year. You know, it's a long time.
Yeah. But you do have the option to like work with the school system, move some of your programming to one of the gyms in the school. So we've, you know, got a pretty good relationship with them. So there are ways that we would still be programming while this construction were going on if you did it. And then you'd also want to look at how would you phase this in,
Right.
you know, that sort of thing. So it's financially and programming wise. So,
Thank you.
but
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Do we have any comments or questions from any other commissioners and mayor?
I have some questions, but I'm happy to wait till everybody else has had a chance.
I've got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Anything for pickleball?
Not outside pickleball. Now we could certainly look at that, trying to put that in there. That did not rank high in the survey. But you would, you know, inside, I would definitely add, you would have more gym space, so you could obviously have more indoor pickleball courts, which seem to be the information I'm getting from our folks that play pickleball or that are playing at the Gap.
Okay.
You know, they don't necessarily love those outdoor courts. So if we did something, we would definitely do something different, but we would be able to increase the number of inside courts we have.
Commissioner Gilreath, you're on mute, Commissioner Gilreath. While we're waiting on, there you go.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we hear you now.
Well, I was just curious regarding the use of the amphitheater out at the Gap. I'm not aware that we're using it a lot, so I'll doing the survey, that ranked pretty high also.
Well, that's a county facility, so we wouldn't necessarily be using that. This would be City of Oxford for programming for different events and things like that that we would offer here. So that we don't do any programming out there.
Right, but if we're not currently, if the citizens in the area are not using what is available, what will we use it for within the city limits? I mean, I understand programming for it, but.
Well, you could
Okay.
start, yeah, you could start in obviously Granville County Chamber of Commerce and DOEDC do a lot of events, trying to draw folks to downtown and that sort of thing. But you could do additional concert series, but those are all things that we wouldn't do out there. So this would be programmed by the city, by the Parks and Recreation Department. You know, certainly DOEDC, Granville County Chamber of Commerce, places like that. You could use it for an outdoor graduation for a high school. So, you know, you could do different things like that. I'm not really sure how much it gets you. I don't think the one at the Gap is very large either. But that would be programming from them. We wouldn't necessarily be involved in that. So we would program it ourselves.
Any further, Commissioner Gilreath? Did that answer your question? No.
It did, but it's duplicating. I mean, I'm at the Gap a lot, and I've probably seen it used once. And I don't know why, but anyway, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kern, you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good. I'm listening.
Okay.
I have an additional.
Yes, sir.
question. So Tina, what is the difference in costs from the first concept? And I mean, you know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking with the addition of an aquatic center, we're talking about a big difference in costs from the first, you know, diagram to the second. And so
Right.
I was wondering, has there been any thought about what we are talking about, the costs might be if we select one or the other?
We haven't gotten that far because this is just such a sketch plan at this point. Now, the aquatic center, like I mentioned earlier, you're looking at probably $10 million. And, you know, a splash pad, you're looking at $250,000, $300,000. So again, this is definitely a huge commitment for the city. And I feel like it's something we have to be, you know, ready to do and need. But the cost is significant to any type of project like this, as you guys all know that. But so that would be another reason why phasing would be very important, that sort of thing. So.
Is that any further comments, Commissioner Bridges?
No, I didn't have any other questions.
All right, thank you. I also need, Madam Clerk, before we get to the mayor, we have been joined by Mary Yount, our downtown EDC, Downtown Economic Development Coordinator, for your minutes. Now, Mayor Sargent.
Yes, sir.
I was saying that Ms. Mary Yount had joined I didn't call her name at the beginning because I'm sure you're taking the minutes. So she's on here as well.
I got it, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mayor.
Thank you. So I have a number of questions. The very first one is, would you consider after this meeting sending out the 2 separate concept plans, a printed version, maybe putting it, or maybe we can have, we can print them up here in City Hall tonight and let people come and get them or put them in the mail, but whatever, because I think it would be very helpful for each of us to be able to look at the 2 editions side by side and have some time to think about it a little bit further before taking the final assessment. So that's thing 1. Thing 2, can you consider going back to version 1, please?
Okay.
Thank you. So my question, and this is again why it would be so great to be able to put them side by side, is so you mentioned 32,000 square foot aquatic center. What is the size of the existing gym?
24 maybe to 26,000.
Okay. Does that aquatic center have a second story?
It has a walking trail like above the, and this again, this is just basically, the
Concept.
ACOG fit this space and hit a
Right.
lot of points that we needed. So in their 32,000, they have an upstairs that has a walking track above the gym. And so it doesn't have, so what was specifically was your question? Sorry.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, have you thought about, because it looks like certainly Plan 1 without the aquatic center is a little more affordable, and maybe it isn't once you start moving everything around. But a piece of me wonders, when I hear Commissioner Tovey speaking about phasing and so on, and was there ever discussed the option of putting a new aquatic center where the existing gym is, like using elements from this plan and incorporating elements from the other? And related to that question, I'm remembering when Randy Heeman was our manager and he had come to us from Salisbury, he spoke about how the way Salisbury did their new police station is they stayed in the existing police station and they built a new shell around it. So they kept construction, so they increased the footprint a little bit. They added a second story. But basically they were able to keep function in the original building for as long as possible before they, while they created this new shell and then vacated and went into the interior. And I'm just wondering whether you all even discussed the idea of keeping the current gym where it is, and then when we're ready for that move, putting an aquatic center there.
Yeah, we talked about, and we put together 20 different concepts. And so what we were trying to do was to get the items on here that seem to be what the board and what the community are interested in. But you could do an aquatics piece off of Hicks Gym and not have to do even an additional shell. So the thing is, you would just have to move the parking around and obviously have that plan before, just know that's what you wanted to do and move things around. So if you're wanting to keep Hicks Gym, because that was one of the things I discussed with them was, what if we want to keep the gym? It would have to have significant improvements even past what we're doing right now, but you could enlarge that footprint and add the aquatics to that and let that be the 26,000 square feet. So yeah, that could certainly be done. Really, at this point, we can do anything. It's just a matter of, what we want to put on the plan. So as we move forward, you know, the thing, whatever is going to make the most sense for us. As
Okay, okay.
so that's part of the discussion.
So, thank you. And I guess that's another reason why I think it would be nice for everybody to be able to have a hard copy of each version so that we can ponder it a little bit more. So, on this version where we have the basketball courts and the tennis courts moved, and it says 2 tennis courts, so, and 2 basketball courts. So but the footprint is, so we would just move the tennis courts, and I understand I'm not arguing the fact that the integrity of the current one is failing, and if you want a good strong one, we're gonna have to go back to 0. But, and the same with the basketball court over time, but are we, right now we have 1 basketball court, so this new plan is looking at doubling the amount of space for basketball, but keeping the amount of space for tennis the same. Am I understanding that?
Potentially. They, honestly, they put these in, and when we moved it back to concept 2, because this is what they sent me for concept 1, after our discussion, it would stay as the 2 tennis courts. So the basketball court would be a little bit larger, yes. The tennis courts would be about the same, unless 5 years from now we have this huge influx of tennis players into the area and we're not at the point of building anything, and you know, we need to add additional tennis courts. So none of this is definite. So as our needs change, up until we get to the point that we're actually going into construction documents, this can become whatever we want it to be. These are the items that are going to fit, and these are sort of the ways they're going to fit best within this site. So, and they actually moved the basketball court and the tennis court over there because they felt like it would get more, I think as Commissioner Bridges was saying earlier, one of the reasons for putting the basketball court where it was safety, and they, you know, it being on Cooper Street where people could see things that were going on and that sort of thing, and you would have pedestrian access to it, that sort of thing. So it is about the same tennis court size, but a little bit bigger basketball court. So yes, long answer.
So, and I think the first thing that I failed to say is how much we appreciate the amount of energy that is going into this, and how important I think this planning process is for the future of Oxford. Seeing as how right now on our agenda tonight, we have 302 home development in discussion. I would just, and that's why I don't feel ready to say, yeah, I want this version or that version. I think it's important for us to be very mindful of the direction that Oxford is going in. And I think we are going to grow, and I think the better amenities that we have, the more appealing that is to all kinds of people that are looking at our community. And so in my mind, I think we do need to be planning in the long term, even though the cost might be breathtaking. We need an aquatic center. We need it for a zillion reasons. An indoor aquatic center offers opportunities for seniors. As part of the activities that are available to the senior center, it offers opportunities for high schools to have swim teams. It offers opportunities for year-round swim lessons. There are just so many things that an aquatic center offers that I think people looking at the city of Oxford and people here will just, it would be huge. And I also think our basketball courts are already packed. And so I think it goes without saying that we probably need more of that. And you know, I would posit we could probably stand a third tennis court with time, even though there are new courts being constructed out at the Gap. I think all of these things are important, and I'm very excited by these discussions, and so I want to just thank you very much for it.
Yeah, and we, again, what we're trying to add here are things that will fit within this particular site. So that's not to say that there's somewhere else, I don't know, because nobody knows at this point what's going to happen at the Armory. So,
Right.
you know, obviously I want everything for recreation. So if you could put an additional tennis court there, an additional basketball court there, what we kind of need to do when you guys look at these plans is we're not saying that we may not need additional courts or things like that in the future, but is this where we want to put them? So just think about that, because as you add things, something's going to have to be taken away as well, because there's a lot of parking that needs to be added. You know, it'd be great if we could hold all of our parking internally, very, you know, limited parking on Spring Street for safety reasons, that sort of thing. So, and if you build an aquatic center, you have to have, you know, Cheryl's going to make us have a certain number of parking spaces. So we just need to think about, you know, there may be more things we want, but specific to this site, you know, we just need everything to fit. So think about that when y'all are looking at the plans, and I'll certainly email that out probably Thursday actually. So yeah, I'm taking everything in, got notes here based on what you guys are saying, and I mean, great ideas and comments and suggestions so far. So
you brought up the Armory, and that was actually something that I wanted to ask about, because it does make a difference. What if the Armory is in play, and that's part of the discussion among your team when looking at planning for the future? Has there been any discussion about concept plans for that location in the context of recreation and community services, so that it would be possible to look at the concept plans for this location in the context of what would be planned for, or could be planned for the Armory location?
Right, and that is something that I've had conversations with them about, because we don't know, and I obviously don't know at this point what's going to happen, and with the Armory piece, but that we were thinking, you know, as our list grows of the things that the city needs and wants, obviously we're going to have more space. So if that's the Armory property, then, you know, we'll figure out what can go there. But I have talked to them about this level of concept plan for that piece of property as well. So we can, you know, that is certainly something that we could do. Alan and I have had some discussions about that too, because, you know, our list is greater than our space right now, obviously. So, but yeah, so those conversations have started internally.
Ms. Cheek, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
When you email the two plans out, could you give us an estimated cost by any chance, or is that we're not at that point yet?
We're not at that point yet, and I think at this point, if you can, and I know it's hard because y'all are great stewards of the taxpayers' money, but let's look at it based on the needs of the community and the future needs, because we're planning this for a different tax base, for a different population, numbers wise. So we can always do phasing for this type of property. So what I'd like to see are the things that, you know, that we really want and we feel like the community will need moving forward. And then we can certainly kind of, that's sort of a further down the road level, not as much as part of this, but I can, you know, figure out fairly quickly how much it costs to build 2 additional basketball courts, or, you know, I do have sort of a number for the aquatic center, the amphitheater. So there could be some estimates, but that would take me a little bit longer than probably Thursday when I email these concepts out to you. But I can certainly look into doing that and trying to get some numbers.
Okay, I appreciate it. Commissioner Bridges and Commissioner Tovey, do you have any further comments?
I'm wondering, you know, because I will tell you, I've heard some positives and negatives relative to the aquatic center in Henderson. And I wondered whether or not there were discussions going on with folks in Vance County and some of the obstacles that they've encountered relative to the center that they have, and how we might be able to avoid some of those obstacles, those negatives. I mean, I can't talk specifically about what I've heard, but I've just heard that there are some things that Henderson wasn't ready for as it relates to their aquatic center. And I would hope that we could learn from that and just be sure that some of those things don't fall upon us.
Yes, sir. We always try to benefit from the folks that have gone before us and have done these things. And that conversation would go even further than Henderson to other communities that have built aquatic centers, and not even just aquatic centers, but, you know, community centers and that have an aquatics component, because I'd like there to be areas for, you know, teenagers to hang out and to program for them. That's not necessarily, you know, in the middle of a youth basketball game, or, you know, kind of the things that we're dealing with now. So, but yeah, I will definitely talk to Lauren over there and Kendrick as well to see what things have gone on. We've had a lot of conversations recently trying to figure out who was opening pools and who wasn't. So we've talked a lot, but yeah, we would definitely do that. And we try to fix all the things that didn't go well with them so that ours would be even better moving forward. So, yes, sir.
Commissioner Bullock, Gilreath, and Kern, any final comments?
Nothing.
No.
Okay. Mayor Sargent, any final comment?
Not at this time. It's exciting. You know, as I mentioned, I look forward to having the hard copies so to look at them side by side and really get a strong sense. And also, if there are any thoughts when you send everything else out, Tina, that, you know, because the floor in the armory is a mighty floor. So, I mean, it's built to withstand tanks. So, you know, if there would be, you know, a sense from the folks that you're working with that there are some options that would be a better location for a community center and aquatic center. I think that kind of information could be helpful for the discussion with respect to these plans here. And
Yes.
I really thank you.
You're very welcome. And I will definitely have that discussion. I've done a little bit of research right after I first got here, and there started being some conversation about the armory. Started doing a little bit of research into that sort of thing, but again, not knowing what direction that property was going to go in, sort of halted that. So yeah, I'll look back into that and ask some questions and see. I'll send these concepts to you on Thursday. And just to give you a real quick kind of next steps, we're looking at doing the additional public engagement somewhere around July 14th. And then the presentation of the comp plan and Hicks complex findings to council would be August 11th, which would be sort of the end of this particular process that we were doing. And so as we move forward looking for funding and how we want to phase and things like that, then obviously there are a lot of next steps as far as that goes, and honing in on you know, more specifics and that sort of thing. But that's kind of where we're looking. So you have, I'll give you sort of a deadline if you would to get me comments back, but you'll have a couple of weeks without question to look over this and ask me questions or send comments or that sort of thing.
Mr. Thornton,
No,
you have
I'm good.
anything to add?
No, sir.
All right.
It is an exciting time in Oxford. We're certainly cautiously optimistic that all the development that was coming is going to continue to come. But, you know, we stand on the precipice of being able to plan for that future, which is responsibly what we should be doing. And I know that there's some sticker shock associated with that, but, you know, it can be done in phases. We will pursue grants from Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and Land Water Conservation Funds and other sources to bring this into reality once we complete the process of better understanding what we want and how we go about getting it and the time frame and all the above. But you know, to me, it just represents a great, unique opportunity that we have here at the City of Oxford to really provide some good services to the public that will be clamoring for them.
All right. Thank you,
Can
Mr.
I make one comment?
Yes, sir.
Going to the Armory property, and I guess this would go back to a property committee meeting. It was my understanding when we got the property, the idea was to use it for something that would be an attraction to downtown Oxford, to draw people downtown from to spend money. In other words, I don't see a tennis court and a basketball court doing that. I think if we're going to look at other properties somewhere else to expand, we ought to find some other property that's not that location. That location can be much more than a tennis court. And I think we can discuss that at a property committee meeting later. That's all.
Okay. I appreciate that comment. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought someone else was saying something. I apologize. I appreciate everyone's comments. Like I said, today's objective was just to receive the two plans from Ms. Cheek, our Parks and Recreation Director. And I think she did a wonderful job presenting those. And as the mayor said, when we can see them side by side Tuesday, we'll all have a better feeling and understanding. Thank you all for coming today. And Ms. Cheek, do you have anything to close up with?
No, sir. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate you guys meeting today. I know you may have a long meeting this evening, but I do appreciate that, and hope everyone has a great evening.
All right. Thank you very much, and I'll see y'all in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.